23,000 men, 2 days, and when it was over, every American who believed war was glorious woke up screaming. April 6, 1862. The question isn't what happened at Shiloh. The question is, what died there that could never be brought back? If you believe history deserves to be told without myth or comfortable lies, you found history unlocked. Some stories don't just inform us, they show us who we really are when the mask comes off. This is one of those stories. Subscribe if you're ready to see it. Spring, 1862. America is 1 year into tearing itself apart, and nobody's taking it seriously yet. Walk through any northern city and you'll hear the same delusion wrapped in confidence. Newspapers print headlines promising the rebellion will collapse by summer. Politicians give speeches about one more decisive battle ending it all. Young men sprint to recruiting stations, terrified the war will finish before they get their taste of glory. They want the uniform, the medal, the story that makes their grandchildren lean forward. In the South, the fantasy wears different clothes but carries the same poison. Richmond's parlors buzz with certainty. 1 Confederate soldier equals 5 Yankees. Hasn't Bull Run proven it? Hasn't Wilson's Creek demonstrated Southern superiority? Their generals are brilliant. Their cause is blessed by God Himself. Victory isn't a question. It's a foregone conclusion waiting to be announced. Both sides are living in a dream, and dreams end when you open your eyes to blood. The man about to wake them up doesn't look like a prophet of truth. Ulysses S. Grant, 40 years old, perpetually rumpled uniform, cigar stub always clenched between his teeth. Before the war found him, he was nobody. Worse than nobody. He was the town failure, drummed out of the army for drinking, couldn't hold civilian jobs, ended up working his father's leather shop in Galena, Illinois, where neighbors crossed the street to avoid the man who'd wasted such promise. But war strips away everything except what's essential. And inside Grant's failures lived something the peacetime world couldn't see. Not brilliance, not charisma, something colder and infinitely more valuable. The capacity to look at what must be done and do it without flinching, without excuse, without stopping until it's finished. By early 1862, Grant's captured Fort Henry and Fort Donelson, given Lincoln the Union's first real victories. Newspapers crown him a savior. Washington toasts his name. After 40 years of nothing, Grant finally matters. Success is intoxicating, and intoxication breeds carelessness. Early April, Grant moves his army 40,000 strong deep into Tennessee. They make camp at Pittsburg Landing on the Tennessee River's west bank. It's achingly beautiful country, rolling hills covered in hardwood forest, peach orchards exploding with spring blossoms, white and pink petals drifting through sunlight. Soldiers pitch tents between the trees in neat rows. They cook breakfast, write letters to wives and mothers. Some strip naked and swim in nearby creeks, laughing like boys on summer vacation. Nobody digs trenches. Nobody constructs earthworks. Nobody posts adequate pickets. Why would they? The Confederate Army sits 20 miles south in Corinth, Mississippi. Grant's intelligence says they're weak, demoralized, retreating deeper into their shrinking territory. Grant believes his intelligence. That belief is about to cost 23,000 men everything. 20 miles away, a tall, gray-haired man studies a map by candlelight and makes a decision that will baptize an entire generation in blood. General Albert Sidney Johnston, 6'1", ramrod straight, the kind of officer who makes other men stand taller just by entering a room. Before the war, even Northerners spoke his name with reverence. West Point graduate, veteran of the Mexican War, served in multiple frontier campaigns. Jefferson Davis called him the greatest soldier in America. North or South, Johnston understands mathematics that Confederate politicians refuse to see. Time is the South's enemy. The North has twice the population, 3 times the industrial capacity, 10 times the railroad miles. Every week this war continues. The gap widens. If this becomes a grinding contest of resources, the South loses. Not eventually, inevitably. So Johnston decides to gamble everything on a single throw. He'll take his entire army, 44,000 men, and march them 20 miles through wilderness in the dark. He'll hit Grant's camps at dawn, catch them cooking breakfast, destroy them before they can form battle lines, win the Western theater in one morning of perfect violence. His subordinates are horrified. The plan is audacious to the point of insanity. What if they're discovered? What if Grant has scouts out? What if the element of surprise is lost? Johnston's answer silences the room. I would fight them if they were a million. April 5. 44,000 Confederate soldiers begin moving through the forest toward Grant's unsuspecting army. It should be a ghost march. Silent, professional. invisible until the moment of attack. It's a disaster. Soldiers talk and laugh, bands play, officers shout orders, drums beat cadence, bugles sound. The noise carries for miles through the still spring air. Regimental commanders ride frantically up and down the column begging for silence. It's useless. These aren't professional soldiers. They're farmers and clerks and shopkeepers playing at war. They don't know how to move in silence. Some of Johnston's generals are convinced surprise is impossible now. They surround him, urging cancellation, turn back, regroup, try again when conditions are better. Johnston stares toward where Grant's men sleep and repeats himself, "We will attack at dawn." April 6, 4:30 in the morning. 3 miles from the Union camps, 44,000 men form a battle line stretching across 3 miles of forest. They stand in darkness, waiting, every man alone with his thoughts, hearts hammering, mouths dry, hands trembling on rifle stocks. Some pray, some think of home, some just stare forward into nothing, trying to find courage in the face of what's coming. In the Union camps ahead, men sleep, 70,000 of them scattered through the forest in various states of readiness. Sentries stand watch, but they're relaxed, comfortable. One Union general will later testify he believed any Confederate movement would provide several days' warning. 5 o'clock. Union pickets on routine patrol stumble into Confederate skirmishers. Shots crack through the pre-dawn silence. The pickets race back toward camp screaming warnings that nobody wants to believe. 6 o'clock. 44,000 men surge forward. The sound is something from nightmares. Rebel yells echoing through forest. Drums pounding. Bugles screaming. Thunder of boots shaking earth. The crash of thousands of rifles firing in unison. It's the sound of the world ending. Union soldiers stumble from tents in their underwear. Confused, disoriented, still half asleep. Some think it's a drill, an exercise. Then bullets start punching through canvas. Men drop without understanding why. Blood sprays across coffee pots and breakfast fires. Suddenly everyone understands. This is real. This is happening. And they're utterly, catastrophically unprepared. What would you have done? Grabbed your rifle and formed ranks? Or run? Panic spreads like plague. Entire regiments dissolve within minutes. Men throw down weapons and sprint toward the river. Officers scream themselves hoarse, ordering them to stop, to fight, to stand. But terror is contagious and overwhelming. Within the first hour, thousands of Union soldiers are pressed against the bluff at Pittsburg Landing, paralyzed, weeping, praying, refusing to go back toward the sound of the guns. Grant isn't even there. He's 10 miles downriver at another camp, eating a leisurely breakfast when distant artillery rumbles through the morning air. At first, he's unconcerned, probably skirmishers exchanging fire. Routine. Then a messenger crashes through the door, uniform soaked with blood, gasping that the entire Confederate army is attacking and the Union line is collapsing. Grant's face drains of color. He bolts from the table, runs outside, leaps onto his horse, and gallops toward the sound of his career dying. What he finds is absolute chaos. His carefully organized army is coming apart like wet paper. Men running in every direction, units shattered, officers dead or missing. The Confederate assault sweeping everything before it like a hurricane. Any other general would consider retreat, salvation of whatever forces remain. Grant doesn't even consider it. He rides calmly through storms of bullets, issuing quiet, specific orders. Hold this ridge, fall back to that tree line, form a defensive position along this road. His presence alone begins to stabilize the panic. If Grant isn't running, maybe they don't have to either. Slowly, impossibly, fragments of the Union line begin to coalesce. Not everywhere, but in crucial places. Men who were fleeing 5 minutes ago are now standing their ground, loading, firing, dying where they stand rather than abandoning their positions. The battle transforms into something no American has experienced. This isn't the gentlemanly warfare of revolutionary paintings. This is industrial-scale butchery. Men fire at each other from 30 feet away until one side breaks or everyone's dead. Bayonets clash. Artillery fires canister shot directly into massed infantry, transforming human beings into scattered meat. The smoke becomes so thick soldiers can't see 5 feet. They shoot at shapes, at sounds, at movement in the fog. In a sunken road surrounded by dense oak forest, Union General Benjamin Prentiss anchors his division in a natural trench. The Confederates call it the Hornet's Nest because the volume of bullets sounds like 1,000 angry insects. For 6 straight hours, Prentiss holds this position against wave after wave of Confederate assault. They attack 12 separate times. 12 times they're thrown back by point-blank rifle fire. Bodies pile up in grotesque heaps. the ground becomes slick mud, not from rain, from blood soaking into Tennessee clay. The Confederates massed 62 cannons in a semicircle around the Hornet's nest and pounded with concentrated artillery fire. 62 cannons firing simultaneously. The noise transcends sound and becomes pressure that crushes your chest. Trees explode into splinters, earth geysers into the air. Men's ears bleed, their teeth crack from clenching, and still Prentiss holds. But elsewhere, the Union line continues to crumble. Confederate forces push relentlessly toward Pittsburg Landing. If they reach the river, Grant's entire army will be trapped against the water with nowhere to retreat. The war in the Western Theater could end today with total Confederate victory. Then at 2:30 in the afternoon, everything changes in a way nobody expects. General Albert Sidney Johnston rides near the front lines. He's always led from the front. It's who he is. A bullet strikes his right leg just behind the knee. It's not dramatic, doesn't unhorse him. Johnston barely reacts. He keeps riding, keeps shouting encouragement to his men, keeps pushing the attack forward. But that bullet severed his femoral artery. Blood pours into his boot. Johnston feels lightheaded, weak, confused why his strength is draining away. He slumps in the saddle. Aides rush over. By the time they get him off his horse and lay him under a tree, his face is the color of paper. His lips are blue. His boot is overflowing with blood. 3 o'clock. Albert Sidney Johnston, the man both sides believed was invincible, dies from a wound a simple tourniquet could have prevented. Nobody thought to check his leg. The Confederate offensive loses its soul. Without Johnston's commanding presence, the attack becomes uncoordinated. Units assault piecemeal. Officers hesitate. Crucial momentum bleeds away with their dead commander. If these moments feel real to you, if history matters beyond dates and facts, then stay with us. Subscribe to History Unlocked, because preserving these truths, telling them without comfort or myth, that's how we honor what they paid. 5:30 p.m. After holding the Hornet's nest for 6 impossible, heroic, suicidal hours, General Prentiss finally surrenders. 2,200 men march into captivity. But those 6 hours purchased something invaluable. They gave Grant time to establish a final defensive line near the river. Time for reinforcements to arrive across the Tennessee River. And reinforcements are coming, all day. Steamboats have been ferrying fresh Union troops from the eastern bank. General Don Carlos Buell's entire army, 25,000 men who haven't fired a shot yet. By nightfall, they're pouring onto the battlefield, filling the gaps in Grant's shattered line. The sun sets on a landscape transformed into something from hell itself. Bodies everywhere, thousands of them, carpeting the ground so thickly you could walk across entire fields stepping only on dead men. The beautiful peach orchard is unrecognizable now. White blossoms stained crimson, trees shredded by bullets into broken stumps. The air thick with gunpowder smoke and the copper smell of blood and the sweet-rot stench of torn open bodies. That night, a massive thunderstorm rolls across the battlefield. Rain hammers down on the wounded. Men who survived 12 hours of combat now drown in puddles, freeze in mud, scream for water while rain soaks them. The sound of their agony mingles with thunder. Lightning illuminates scenes from nightmares. Soldiers on both sides will later say that night was worse than the battle. Grant stands under a tree, soaking wet, smoking a cigar. His uniform is splattered with other men's blood. An officer approaches and quietly suggests they should consider retreating across the river while they still can. Grant doesn't even look at him. Retreat? No, I propose to attack at dawn. April 7th. Dawn arrives gray and rain-soaked. The Union Army, now reinforced to nearly 50,000 fresh troops, crashes into the exhausted Confederates. The rebels fought all day yesterday, spent the night in a thunderstorm without food or shelter or rest. They're running on courage and desperation and nothing else. They fight magnificently, die bravely, but they're outnumbered by men who slept last night, who ate breakfast this morning, who aren't already half dead from exhaustion. By mid-afternoon, the Confederate army is streaming back toward Corinth in full retreat, leaving thousands of their dead behind. The Union doesn't pursue. They can't. They're too shattered themselves, too stunned by what they've just survived. The butcher's bill from Shiloh arrives like a tsunami. 23,746 casualties. In 2 days, more American casualties than the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, and the Mexican War combined. In one weekend, northern newspapers print the lists. They go on for pages. Entire towns lose every man they sent. Mothers open telegrams and collapse in doorways. Wives become widows between breakfast and lunch. Children lose fathers before dinner. The scale is incomprehensible. In the South, the devastation cuts just as deep. They've lost Johnston, the man they believed could not be killed, the general who represented their best hope. Morale doesn't just fall, it shatters completely. But the tactical losses aren't the real wound. The real damage is psychological. Before Shiloh, war was romantic, an adventure, something young men did to prove themselves. Uniforms and bands and girls waving handkerchiefs. After Shiloh, everyone knows the truth. War is being ankle-deep in mud mixed with blood. It's watching your best friend's head explode. It's sounds you'll hear in nightmares for 50 years. It's realizing this won't end in 6 months. It'll take years, and it'll break the nation's heart. Grant becomes a target. Northern newspapers savage him, call him a butcher, a drunk, an incompetent who let his army be surprised and massacred. Politicians demand his immediate removal, his court-martial, his public humiliation. President Lincoln refuses every demand. When someone tells him Grant drinks too much, Lincoln allegedly responds, "Find out what brand Grant drinks. I'll send a barrel to all my other generals." Lincoln understands what the critics don't. Grant fights. He doesn't quit when things get hard. He doesn't make excuses. And in a war this savage, that quality matters more than polish or reputation. How far would you go? If your cause demanded 23,000 casualties in 2 days, would you pay it? Or would you find another way? Walk the Shiloh battlefield today. Stand in the sunken road where Prentiss held for 6 hours. Walk through what remains of the peach orchard. Climb the bluff where terrified soldiers huddled. It's peaceful now, beautiful even. Birds sing, trees sway in breeze, tourists take photographs. But something lingers underneath the peace, something the land remembers. You can feel it if you're paying attention. There's a mass grave there, thousands of bodies buried together, North and South mixed. Nobody bothered separating them. In death, they're equal, just boys who believed what they were told and paid for those beliefs with everything. Shiloh teaches the lesson America had to learn in blood and bone. War isn't glorious. It's not an adventure. It's not something you do for honor or medals or stories. It's something you do only when you've exhausted every other option. And even when your cause is righteous, even when you're fighting for something that matters, the cost can break you. After Shiloh, both sides understand the new mathematics. This war will be won by whoever can absorb the most punishment, whoever can keep fighting after their heart is shattered. It won't be decided by brilliant maneuvers or heroic charges. It'll be decided by the willingness to feed young men into the grinder until one side has nothing left to grind. The Confederacy realizes they can't win a grinding war of attrition. They don't have the population. They don't have the industry. They don't have the resources. They need knockout victories, quick decisive battles, European intervention, something to end it before Northern advantages crush them. The Union realizes they can win, but the price will be almost unbearable. Hundreds of thousands dead, entire generations scarred, the South transformed into a wasteland. But if they're willing to pay that price, victory is mathematically inevitable. Shiloh is where that terrible calculation became undeniable. The numbers after Shiloh stop shocking people. They become expected, normal. Antietam will produce more casualties in a single day than Shiloh managed in 2. Gettysburg will dwarf them both. By the war's end, 620,000 Americans will be dead. But it started at Shiloh. That's where America learned what modern industrial warfare really costs. Grant stands in the destroyed peach orchard on April 8th. Trees are broken stumps. Blossoms are crimson mud. Bodies lie everywhere in positions that don't look human anymore. The smell is unbearable. An officer asks what he's thinking. Grant stares at the carnage and says, "I saw an open field so covered with dead that it would have been possible to walk across the clearing in any direction stepping on dead bodies without a foot touching the ground." That image, that single horrifying image, that's Shiloh without the romance stripped away. The soldiers who survived carried Shiloh forever. In nightmares, in the way they jumped at sudden sounds, in silences their families couldn't penetrate. Many fought for 3 more years, survived worse battles, but Shiloh marked them in ways that never healed. America changed too. Before Shiloh, we thought we understood war. We'd fought the revolution, defeated the British twice, conquered Mexico. We believed we knew what we were doing. Shiloh taught us we were children playing with weapons we didn't understand. The peach trees bloom again every spring at Shiloh, white and pink against green. Tourists come, take pictures, read plaques. Most leave thinking they understand. But if you know what happened there, you can never see those trees the same way. You know what the ground holds, what the soil will never forget. Shiloh is where America lost something it never recovered. Not innocence exactly, something deeper. The belief that our conflicts would stay civilized, that Americans wouldn't really slaughter each other by tens of thousands over political disagreements. Shiloh proved otherwise. Proved we're capable of anything when we're convinced we're right. The bill came due at Shiloh for 80 years of unresolved conflict. America paid in blood for sins it had been postponing since the Constitution was signed. The payment was so steep it should have taught us something permanent. But did it? Did we learn? Or did we just survive and move on? Those 23,000 casualties aren't history. They're a question we're still answering. What are we willing to destroy to preserve what we believe? Where's the line we won't cross? At Shiloh, America discovered it didn't have lines, only goals, and it would pay any price to achieve them. That made us strong enough to survive. But it also revealed something about ourselves we'd rather not see. Stand in the hornet's nest today. Feel the weight of those 6 hours when Prentiss held against impossible odds. Think about what those men endured, what they gave, what it cost them. Then ask yourself, would you have held? Or would you have run? The boys who died in that peach orchard believed their cause justified their sacrifice. North and South, they died convinced they were right, that their deaths mattered, that history would vindicate them. Were they right? Both? Neither? That's not a question with comfortable answers. What changed at Shiloh? Everything. Nothing. The war continued for 3 more years. The killing accelerated. But something fundamental shifted on those 2 days in April 1862. America looked into a mirror and saw what it really was underneath the ideals and rhetoric. Saw what it was capable of. What it was willing to do. We're still living with what we saw. If this story changed how you see this moment in history, tell us in the comments. What do you think truly died at Shiloh that could never be brought back? If you believe these stories matter, if you think truth is worth preserving even when it's uncomfortable, share this, and subscribe to History Unlocked, because once you see history clearly, you can't unsee it, and that matters more than we can say. The sun set on April 7, 1862, fell on a different nation than the one that woke that morning. Not better, not worse, just different, harder, more aware of what humans become when certainty collides with fury and neither side will bend. 23,746. Say it slowly, feel the weight, because every single number represents a face, a name, a future that ended in mud. The peach blossoms return every spring, but the boys who fell there remain forever in that forest, forever young, forever caught in the moment when America's illusions shattered and couldn't be put back together. That's Shiloh, not a battle, a revelation, the place where we learned what we really are when everything else is stripped away, and what we learned has never let us go.